Welcome. This is Reggie's PC Resources presenting to you Computer System Overview and Upgrading System Memory. Another educational or instructional video brought to you by Reggie's PC Resources. Now, I believe in the educated consumer, and in this case, the educated computer user. And being at least familiar with certain aspects of your computer system, it goes a long way in helping you to keep your system running longer, getting more years out of it. And it helps protect you from people that would take advantage of your ignorance. For example, someone tells you need a whole new motherboard, or you have to do, something drastic, when all you might need is to upgrade a component. Years ago, I remember a person took their computer to a computer shop and they charged him like $100 and something just to change a cable. He didn't know. All right, so being educated about the computer that you used every day goes a long way in helping you maintain it properly and to protect yourself from being taken advantage of. Think of it like a car, an automobile. You don't have to be a mechanic to drive a car, but there's certain things about a car I mean, of course, you know how to drive it. And with computers, you know how to use the software that you use every day. But with a car, you have to, you're going to have to put gas. You know how to look at the gas meter in your car, your speedometer. You're going to have to get your oil changed, and you go to a professional, i.e. a mechanic, or your dealership, what have you, to get those things done. And the same applies with the computer. I think you do yourself a disservice if you just get a computer and just use it and have no idea about anything that has to do with your computer or even your operating system. I had a person ask me once, I said, you need to copy the file from here to there. And they said, well, what's a file? And I couldn't believe it because they've been using the computer for years. So anyway, in this video, I'm going to present the basic internal components of a computer, of a simple basic computer, so that it'll help you to get the most out of yours if you just know what's in there. And I'm also going to show you how to potentially increase the performance of your computer to extend its life. And we're going to do that. I'm going to do that by upgrading system memory. There are some cases where certain things that you can do, simple things you can do to extend the life of your computer, but not just extend the life, but increase the performance. One of those things is to increase the amount of memory that you have, or RAM, or system memory, and we'll get to these terminologies later. Another thing that you can do is to swap out or change your hard drive from a mechanical hard drive to an SSD type of drive, an SSD. And there are different flavors of that, which we'll get into. But there are things that you can do that can help boost the performance of your computer, even using certain software to help you clean out your system and get things running smoother. And this video is about doing that from one perspective, and that's we're going to change out our system memory. Who am I? My name is William Reginald Cunningham, but you can call me Reggie. I'm the owner and operator of Reggie's PC Resources, www.rpcr.com. I'm a web developer. I'm a certified life coach, Christian minister. I play piano and keyboards. I love physics, astronomy, and of course, technology. In specific, I really enjoy web technologies. I'm a published author. I believe heavily in the educated consumer, or in this specific case, the educated computer user. I'm a husband and a father. If you want to learn more about me, I have LERM. If you want to learn more about me personally, just go to www.williamrcunningham.com. Now, what we're going to cover in this video, or these series of videos, is, this video is we're going to go over some terminology. We're going to do a system overview. I'm going to show you the inside of a computer and just start naming some parts so you become familiar what they are, what they do. A short description, or a short discussion rather, on finding parts for your computer. I mean, you just can't go and I'm just going to increase memory and buy a memory stick. You have to have a specific type of memory for your particular computer. And I'm going to show you the process of upgrading system memory. You're going to watch me do it for a computer that I have. It's an older computer. And it's I don't know, it's probably like around close to 10 years old. But it still works. It runs Windows 10 fine, except it's very, very slow. So I'm upgrading the memory and see what, performance boost I get out of that. And then I might upgrade the hard drive. We're going to continue on next with the basic terminology that you might see in, computer descriptions and specifications and so forth. Okay. So stay tuned. All right, now let's talk about basic terminology, some basic computer terms relevant to this video that I want to discuss with you. Let's talk about the motherboard. Now, normally you won't do much with the motherboard, but it's good to know what it is. Here's a picture of a motherboard. It's the main circuit board of the computer, and it's what things attach to. Your hard drive attaches to the motherboard. Of course, your memory is on the motherboard. Your video card, in one way or another, attaches to the motherboard. It's the main circuit board of your computer. And you have an image here of a motherboard, just to name some parts, just real quick, since it's there. You have the the CPU slot. This is where you would plug in your CPU. You have your memory slots. You have some adapter card slots. You have different USB and different interfaces here. But this whole thing is this is the motherboard. The microprocessor, or the CPU, the brain of the computer. It contains the arithmetic, logic, control, and other circuits in a single integrated circuit. It's like this thing here. This is the bottom of one, okay? And this one here, this is looking from the top. That's your microprocessor. And this runs in the computer. This is where instructions get executed and so forth. And it gets hot. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this is the brain of your computer, the microprocessor, or the CPU, or for short, the processor. And you'll see the processor, for example, some specifications you might see is a Intel i5 or i7 or an i3 or AMD Ryzen, so they're different microprocessors and they have different speeds. I'll have another video that gets more into detail into these things. It's my introduction to computer course for people who want to know more about the computers. But just for now, just know that the CPU is the brain of your computer. The heat sink. Now, I mentioned that the microprocessor can get pretty hot. Well, it gets very hot. You can get burned. The heat sink in a computer, it conducts heat away from a circuit. For example, the CPU has a heat sink on top of it. If you see here, this one here, this image to the right at the bottom here, you have all of these heat sinks. This is a heat sink. All this big blob is a heat sink, and it'll have a fan on it to help with the circulation of the air. But way down here in the bottom, this is where it attaches to the microprocessor. And it conducts heat from the microprocessor to this heat sink, and then the fan just helps circulate that heat away. All right, so that's the job of the heat sink. And there are other circuits that will may have a heat sink as well. For example, a video card. Your video circuitry may also have, or will more than likely have, a heat sink because they generate, a bit of heat. All right, and heat is bad for electronics. They age electronics and so forth. So you want to keep the inside of your computer as cool as possible, and especially the devices themselves. And the heat sink is one of the devices that does that. Here's another example of a heat sink. Now let's talk about kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte. All right. What is that? Well, those are ways of expressing magnitudes of number. We normally think of kilo, mega. For example, a kilo, we might say 1,000. A mega is, 1,000 thousands. A giga is 1,000 thousand thousands, and so forth. But with computers, it's not exactly like that. With computers, just to give you a quick insight, is that computers uses a numbering system of base 2, not base 10 as we're used to. We're used to tens, hundreds, thousands, and so forth. With computers, you have twos, fours, eights, all right? So in that case, a byte, let's just say a byte. Let's define a byte as 8 bits, all right? 8 bits. Now, I don't want to get into explaining what that is, but 8 little digits, okay? So a kilobyte is 1,024 of those bytes, all right? A megabyte is 1,024 of kilobytes, which is 1,148,576 bytes. And a gigabyte is just 1,024 times that. A terabyte is 1,024 gigabytes, which is that big, huge number you see here, 511. No, that's like trillion. So a terabyte is 1,024 gigabytes. That is a big number. That's a big number. 1,099,511,627,775. Ooh, that's a big number. All right, but that's what it is. That's what these things mean. So when you see kilobyte or megabyte or gigabyte, you know what they're talking about. It's a little more than 1,000 times something. It's 1,024. And these are used like your RAM, your system memory will be measured in megabytes. Your hard drive will be measured in gigabytes or terabytes, just so you know what they are. The bigger the number, the more there is, right? Now, disk drives, or we call it a hard drive or the disk. The hard drive is the primary long-term storage in a computer. It's where you store stuff that you want to keep. All right, so when you turn off your computer, what's ever stored on a hard drive is preserved. It is where the operating system, your programs, and your files, your documents, all that stuff stored on a hard drive. And there are two basic types of hard drives. There's the mechanical, and then there's the SSD, which we're going to discuss separately. The SSDs we'll discuss separately. The mechanical hard drive, you see the picture here, this is what it basically looks like. And if you were to take the lid off, this is what it looks like on the inside. They're just platters. Think of like the old cassette tape. Remember I don't know, maybe you don't remember the cassette tape, but it would store stuff on the surface magnetically. And that's basically what the drive does here. It stores stuff on the platters here, and these platters are spinning. And here you have your arm, your read-write heads here. You have a motor, okay? So that's what a mechanical hard drive look like. An SSD, a solid-state drive, we'll talk about separately. Solid-state drive. Now, SSDs, they're a mass storage device, just like your hard disk. But unlike hard disks, they store data on flash memory instead of platters. And therefore, they perform quite faster than your typical mechanical hard disk. Now, they come in two basic interface types. One is called the SATA 3, or it's a SATA interface, and the other is an NVMe, non-volatile memory express interface. They're both they're both SSDs. In other words, they store the data on flash memory, but they connect to your computer in different ways. Here, you have examples of two different types of SSDs. One is called the NVMe, and it's The interface is why it's NVMe. NVMe is an interface protocol or standard, if you want to call it that. And this one is an SSD SATA. Now you notice they look the same, right? These guys look very similar. It's this thin design, but you notice the connection is different. Here's the NVMe connection, and here's the SATA connection. Now both are in the M.2 form factor, and that's this thin, the way it looks, this thin physical appearance. That's the M.2, but one is an NVMe and one is a SATA. So when you're looking for when you're looking for a drive for your computer, an SSD, and let's say you want to get an NVMe or an SSD SATA, then you want to make sure you get the right one. That's the because they look the same until you look at the interfaces. Okay, and here you have SSD drives, your little standard SSD. They connect to your SATA connector, just as your hard drive would. So that's basically what a solid state drive. Now, what that does, the solid state drive does, is it gives you much, much better performance than the traditional mechanical hard drive. All right. So it's much faster. It can access files on it and read and write files a lot faster than the mechanical drive. And they're a lot more reliable than the mechanical drive in the fact that they don't have any moving parts. Now, system memory, RAM, memory module. Okay. System memory, which is the random access memory, is actually random access read-write memory. It's a short-term volatile memory in the computer, and that's used for temporarily holding data. Like when you run a program or when you're working on a Word document, it's in memory. All right, it loads from the hard drive or from your disk, whether it's SSD or mechanical. It brings it from that to memory so that you can work on it. And then when you're finished working on it, it stores it back on the drive and then gets it out of memory. Now, it comes in the form of a system RAM comes in the form of memory modules. And I have a picture. Here's a picture over here. This is generally what it will look like. You'll notice there's a notch. And we're going to be looking at this when we look at the actual inside of a computer and showing you how to change or add memory to your machine. Okay. Now, unlike the disk, even your SSDs, when you turn off your machine, you lose whatever in those memory, all right, in the memory module. These do not keep memory without power. You have to have power in order for something to be stored in these things, in these memory modules, all right? The power supply. I'm going to show you what this is in the actual computer, inside of a computer, but it's the component of the computer that supplies power to the circuits inside the computer. It provides the proper voltages. So the power supply is what provides the necessary power for the circuits of your computer. And it can be swapped out. They do fail. There may be a reason where you might want a more beefy power supply. Let's say if you upgraded your system, done that. It's pretty easy to do. You just have to make sure that the power supply you get can actually connect to your motherboard, because it has to connect to your motherboard. You have to have the proper connections for connecting to your motherboard. Okay, so that's the power supply. It's the power producing component of the computer. Expansion slots. All right. Now, expansion slots, they provide the capability of expanding the functionality of your computer by adding adapter cards. For example, let's say you purchase a computer that has a sound card built in, or they have sound circuitry built in, or the video circuitry is built into the motherboard. So, but let's say you wanted a more high-powered video experience, or maybe you want a better sound quality, so you will get a sound card, an adapter card, to plug into one of these slots. These slots themselves, just for your information, are PCIe slots. You have like a PCIe 16, PCIe, maybe 4, a PCIe 8, what have you. But you would plug your adapter card into this, and gain that extra functionality, maybe a better sound card, a better video card, or maybe there's some other device that you want to hook up to your computer that requires an adapter card. Now, we've gone over some of the basic terminologies of the computer that pertain to this video. Next, we are going to actually look at the components. We're going to get an overview of the computer in place. All right. So stay tuned for that. The computer overview. Now what I want to do is just take a few minutes, a couple minutes, and just open up a computer with a video, a picture, and we're going to actually look inside of a real computer shortly. But I just want to look at a computer and just identify some of the parts, some of the things that we've discussed so far. All right, here we have the inside of a computer. All right, we've taken the side panel off of the case, and we're looking inside the computer. All right, now in the top left, right up here, is the power supply. And you notice all the cables coming from the power supply, and these cable plug into different components of the computer. Of course, it's going to plug into the motherboard. It's going to plug into your hard drive here. If you had other devices, it will plug into that. This fan is getting power, so forth and so on. So that's your power supply. You have your CPU fan. We talked about the heat sink and the fact that the heat sink will most likely have a fan on it. So the CPU will have this fan, they have this heat sink. So you have the fan here, and then you have a heat sink under that, and we talked about that. And then under that will be your microprocessor. You have your expansion slots here. Here's an expansion slot. There's another one right there. Those are PCIe slots. And over here on this side, you have your bays. The silver thing here is where you can install, like say, a DVD drive, even another hard drive. And down here, you have more bays for smaller devices, even a smaller hard drive or whatever. Okay, here you can see it. We're going to show you that in a real system, but here your memory modules, your memory slots. There are two of them here, and the white little latches on the sides of them are what hold the memory modules into place, and we'll be talking about that a little later. And here you can see the hard drive plugged into the power, plugged into your motherboard here, data. Okay, that's how it's connected to your computer. All right, so that's the basic components of a computer. Now, over here to the left, we have other circuitry like your USB connection, your video connection, your network connection, for wire and so forth and so on. All right, so this is the inside of your computer. I would encourage you, if you can, to, one day take the cover off or take one of the side panels off and just look in there. Probably once a year, which I'll mention later, you're going to want to perhaps clean it out because it can get pretty dusty in there. So you want to keep your machine as clean as possible to help, of course, extend its life. So next, we're going to actually we're going to show you the real insides of a computer. So stay tuned. This video is to help you to understand some of the components in a computer, and specifically to show you how you might change or add memory to your computer. Right? You would add memory on your computer, well, if you need more memory. No, but really, that's really what it is. But ultimately, you want to increase the performance of your computer. And one way to do that, a simple way to do that, is to add memory if memory is lacking. For example, if you're using a computer with 4 gigabytes of memory, you're lacking memory if you're running Windows 10. So you might want to add more memory. Right? Now, before we get into the details of that, let's just go over some of the components of the computer. And we'll start with the memory modules. Here are your memory modules. And you notice there's 2 slots. One slot is filled. It has, the memory module in it already, what the computer is using. And what we want to do is add another one to increase the memory. So we have 2 slots, that's for your memory, and that's the memory module. Let me show you what it's going to look like. This is what it looks like. All right, that's what it looks like. And we're going to put this in there, in that slot. Next to the memory is your CPU, or the processor, and the brains of the computer. On top of it, though, is a fan, and below that is a heat sink, and below the heat sink is the actual microprocessor, which is just a little chip that is the brains of the computer, and it gets hot. So what happens is the heat sink transfers the heat from the microprocessor to the air, and the fan just helps to dissipate that hot air or that heat from the heat sink. All right. And you have another fan here to help more with circulation on the inside of a computer. Circulation is very, very important because heat to electronics is not good. Right. Here, this is your power supply. This is what gives your computer power. And there's a fan in there as well. Here are some slots here you see for adapters that you might get. For example, if you want to get your own sound card or another video card, or maybe there's some other type of device that you want to hook up that has an adapter for it. And you have these adapters here, PCI, they're called PCI adapters, or slots rather. Well, these are PCIe slots. All right, and this here is your battery that would keep the clock running and so forth, your configurations live, some of them anyway, when you actually turn the machine off or unplug it and what have you. Here is a hard drive connected. This is your data cable. This is your power cable. All right, now the hard drive is sitting straight up and down, but it looks like this. That's what your hard drive looks like. And you see you have the same slots where you would, plug them in. And here's the bottom. All right, this is a mechanical hard drive. There are spinning platters in there with a read-write head that's going back and forth that reads and writes to that hard drive. All right, so this is a mechanical hard drive. What else do we have in here? You have some bays over here where you can put like a CD or DVD drive. Your memory card slots are here. All right. What else we have? All right, of course, the big green square thing, that's the motherboard. That's where all your circuitry is. And you can add functionality by adding, like we said, the adapters, and you can put them in a slot. And if you ever want to get an adapter, let's say you want to get a sound card, you want to make sure that you have the slot for it. Don't just get any sound card. Make sure that you can plug it into your computer. All right. What else do we have here? I think that's a good thing. I think we've done it. Now, another thing you want to do, since we got the machine open and having this little overview, you want to clean your machine. Let me show you. You might just want to take a little duster, like so, and just dust your machine out. Now, of course, you might have to go back and vacuum it out or get the little dust balls out that's going to fly around in here, as you can see. All right. But you want to be careful if you want to vacuum. You don't want to just take a vacuum and just stick it in there. If you want, you can get a vacuum that's specially designed to handle or to work with, inside of a computer, electronics, stuff like that. All right. Okay. So there you have it. That's the inside of your computer. What we're going to do is replace the memory, or not replace, we're going to add memory to it. Now, if you want to add memory, something you should do, make sure you know what's in your computer already. Don't just go out and buy memory. All right. So for example, let's say I had 2 memory cards in here and 2 4 gigabytes, which would have made my computer to have, I would have 8 gig in the computer. So I can't go and say, okay, I'm going to add 4 more to get 12. and just buy 4 more gig. Where are you going to put it? All right. Let's say I have 2 in there already, adding up to 8 gigabytes, but I want 16 gigabytes. Well, how do I do that? Well, you're going to have to take this one out and get 2 8s. All right. Okay. So that's that. Another way you can improve the performance of your computer is to get a solid state hard drive, to replace this guy with a solid state drive, something like you consider or think about your tablet or your phone, the storage that's in that. It's not a mechanical hard drive. All right, so that will increase the performance of your computer as well. And I'll have another video on what you can do to help improve the performance of your computers, because a lot of times you can improve the performance of your computer to give it more life so that it lasts longer. You know, sometimes we get a new computer because ours becomes so slow and so sluggish, and you figure you have to go out and spend a lot of money to buy another computer. Then you have to take the time and effort to get your files over and your programs and so forth and so on. Whereas you can add more life to your computer, add more years by just increasing the resources that it has available. All right, maybe you need to get a different video card. Maybe you need to get change out your memory modules. Maybe you need to get a different hard drive. Okay, maybe you need to get a different type of DVD drive. Maybe you even need to get a different power supply. You can swap the power supply out as well. All right, there's a lot that you can do, you know, for maintaining and upgrading your computer. All right, so now let's get into installing this memory module into our computer. Now, the first thing you're going to be careful of, you just don't want to start touching stuff in there. All right, because if you get static electricity and you zap something, you forget about it. You might not realize it damaged it until later, but you want to be careful. Now, you can keep your machine plugged in, turn the power supply, power strip off, what have you, so you don't accidentally get electrocuted. All right, but you just want to make sure you ground yourself. All right, so you don't shock any of your devices. So let me take this memory module out, and let's go from there. Okay, come on. Okay. Now, when you're handling any electronics or memory module or electronic circuit board, you just don't want to grab it, you know, because you could damage it with the static electricity. You want to hold it to the sides or where there's no components. You just want to hold it. All right. So now, notice what we have on in the slots. You notice these little tabs here. All right. This one is in the open position, and this one is these are in the closed position, holding this memory module down. All right, so it's locked in. This memory module is locked into place. See, these go up and down. Let me show you. See that? They go up and down. All right, slap into place. All right. So what we want to do is push the new memory module down in there and then lock it into place. So let's do that. Now, you're going to notice there's going to be, let me show you, a little notch. All right, see the little notch right here? That little notch. All right, there's a little notch in the slot here as well. So you just want to make sure that you put this in the right position, because notice one side of the notch is longer than the other side. So you just want to make sure you line it up in the slot. Make sure that you slide this in with the notch in the proper place. Long side, short side, so forth and so on. And then you want to just slide it into the 2 slots on either side of this slot here. There are 2 little grooves right there where this thing is. You see 2 little a groove here and a groove on the other side where this slides in. So you just want to get it in there. Okay, get that in there. And get the other side. Oops. Get the other side and then slide it down. Now you can push it down, but you got to be careful. You don't want to push it down and break something. You can push it down until these 2 things on the side, these 2 latches, pop into place. All right. You hear that? You hear that? It just clicks into place.
and then you can just push in more if you want. All right, that one wasn't locked, so it's good to push down and make sure everything is locked into place. All right, so you're just going to push and close, push and close. That's another way to do it. All right, so now I have 8 gigs of memory in this computer, so I will turn it on. Make sure it works. I have purchased memory that was defective, so you want to make sure it works as soon as possible so you can return it and whatnot. Okay, so there you go. That's how you change memory in a computer. That was simple, wasn't it? Real easy. All right, so you've got an overview of the computer. You know what stuff is in there. This is an older machine. Like I said, this box is probably close to 10 years old, and it's still going strong because, I'm just using it for Word and just as a test machine and so forth and so on, but it works. So the different components of a computer, and stay tuned for more videos where I'll probably get in more detail about things and how to swap out the drive and so forth and so on.
Now, we've gone over the basics of the computer, looking inside of a real computer, identifying the different parts, the different components, and we've demonstrated the addition of a memory module to increase the RAM or your system memory, especially for an older computer that you're attempting to give more life or to extend its life. All right. Now we're going to talk about next is how do you get the parts? What do you do to get the different parts for your computer? How do you know what memory module to get or what type of sound card, if you're going to get a sound card or a hard drive, whatnot? So let's talk about that next. Finding parts for your computer. Let's talk about the process of, getting the right parts for your computer. If you want to upgrade or add something to it, what do you do? Well, you're going to need some things, and the first thing you're going to need is the make and model of your computer. All right, know what that is. For example, I have a Dell XPS 8930. Right, so that's a computer. I would look for devices or, like, say, memory modules or whatever that's compatible with that particular version. And a lot of sites will ask you that. They'll prompt you for that. What's the make of your computer? Rather, you have a Dell, and what's the model and the model number? XPS, and then they can give you a list of items that are compatible with your computer. You definitely want to make sure you get devices or extra parts that are compatible with your computer. Another way to do that with certain manufacturers is either by a serial number or a tag number. Dell have these things called a tag number. It's just an identifying number, a unique number for each system, so that when you're talking to a Dell representative, they'll ask you for your tag number. You can give them the tag number, and they can know a whole lot about your computer, at least as it was when you first purchased it. Some other things you're going to want to know if you're looking for parts for your computer, extra devices or whatnot, is the type of expansion slots that you have available. If you're going to get an adapter card, let's say a new sound card, you need to know that you get the proper sound card that will fit in the available slot of your computer. You're going to want to know what type of memory you need. But with the memory, if you have the make and model of your computer or the tag number or serial number, you can get that compatibility. That'll resolve that compatibility because you'll know that you'll be getting memory that's compatible with such and such a computer. How many available bays do you have? That's usually not a problem, but you might start loading up your computer for some reason with a whole bunch of different devices. You want to make sure you have enough bays, especially if you have a small form factor case computer where it's a small little tower and it doesn't have a lot of drive bays in the first place. How many available memory slots do you have? You don't want to just buy memory, say I'm going to upgrade my memory and add memory to my computer when you don't have an available slot. You might have, let's say you have an older system and it has 4 gigs of memory, and you're saying, okay, I want to upgrade to 8. So I'll go get an 8 gig, I'll get a 4 gig, and I'll be able to upgrade my memory. But then you open your machine, you realize you have two 2 gig memory modules in there. All right. So you don't have a place to plug in your 4. So you have to take one of them out and you'll be left with 6. So make sure you have free slots for your memory if you're going to buy memory. And it helps to know what operating system you have, because there might be some things that are not compatible with a particular operating system depending on its age or whatnot. All right. So the most important thing is that computer make and model, or the serial number and the tag number if it's a Dell machine. Those are the things that you're going to need when you're looking for parts or devices for your computer. Now, getting those parts is, you just shop for the best deal. Overall, you want to make sure that the device or the part that you get is compatible with your computer. You don't want to get a PCIe times 16 and try to plug it in a times 4. You can go the other way, but not. You want to make sure that you have the available slots, available memory slot, that if you want to get another hard drive, that you get the right kind of hard drive. You don't want to go buy, okay, here's an SSD hard drive. It's an M2 NVMe, so I'm going to buy that. Great. And you go to your computer and your motherboard does not have a connector for it. Okay. So you want to make sure you get a compatible device. You can go start with your manufacturer. If you have an HP machine or a Dell machine or Lenovo or whatever, go to the manufacturer's website, see what they have. Maybe even talk to somebody if you can, or chat to get the, to help you get the compatible device. Check Amazon. There's some things that are not so critical, like if you're going to get a hard drive, well, as long as it's the type of interface that your computer uses, you'll be okay. If it's a SATA drive and you have a SATA connection, or if you have a SATA drive in your serial ATA, by the way, if you have that in your computer, then you can shop around for the best SATA drive. And of course, you can check other resources. I mean, go to Best Buy, go to your shop at your, or check out your local computer shop, where you can go in and buy computers and devices and get things fixed and whatnot. See what they have. You never know. But the most important thing is to make sure that you get a compatible device. All right. Don't just go out there and buy stuff. Just make sure that it is compatible with your computer. You may have to talk to somebody. You can always contact Reggie's PC Resources. You can talk to me. I can help you with that. Talk to your local computer shop. Talk to your manufacturer, a support rep or something like that. All right. So that's what you do to get the parts for your site. So we've gone over some of the terminology. We've reviewed the computer system. We've shown you inside of a computer, identified the different components and whatnot. If you watched me upgrade memory of the computer, which was successful, it does have more memory and it all works. Okay. All right. So now, if you have any questions, or if you have any comment or any ideas for more courses, things you want to know, feel free to contact me. I can be reached by email, reggie@rpcr.com. You can call me at 215-362-0967. And of course, the website we have is www.rpcr.com. Also, you can go to courses.rpcr.com if you're not already there. For the courses that I make available, or courses or video series, instructional videos and whatnot, to help you manage your machines better, to be safer on the internet, and to help protect your machines. For example, I have a whole big series, a couple of them on backups. All right. So it's been great. Thanks for watching. And feel free to contact me if you have questions or comments, or if you need assistance, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Well, until the next time, you have a great one.